everybody knows how to develop a quarterback. You're assuming that you're going into a program. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not, there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing when they're tasked with coaching a quarterback or calling an offense. So are you saying, I mean, just like we'd rank quarterbacks 1 to 32, do you rank offensive coordinators 1 to 32? Do you rank quarterback coaches 1 to 32? Well, what if you have the 32nd ranked coordinator in someone's mind, or the 32nd ranked quarterback coach? How is he getting a level of development that the guy who's first is getting?
Local Cleveland media keep going relentless on Shedeur Sanders. He entitled, distracted, developing slow, can't learn the playbook, not getting practice reps with the scout team, not getting practice reps at all. But what if I told you? Then don't none of that got to do nothing with football. This goes deeper than people realize. If y'all ain't seen the Tom Brady came out on Colin Cowherd, now this is pertaining to the Browns saying they developing quarterbacks.
What I'm about to tell you will completely flip how you see Tom Brady's so-called calm under pressure legend. The man known for never cracking, for keeping that ice in his veins GOAT composure, finally lost it. And for good reason. When Brady saw what Kevin Stefanski pulled after Shedeur Sanders exposed the Browns' shady game plan, even he couldn't stay cool. This wasn't football. This was straight up grime dressed as strategy, and it made Brady snap like never before. Picture this. Tom Brady, the same dude who stared down impossible defenses, tank-sized linemen, and time itself, suddenly looking like he just watched football's soul sink to the bottom of Lake Erie. Whatever Stefanski did, it crossed every unspoken line in the game. You could practically see the disbelief in Brady's eyes, the kind that says, nah, this ain't football anymore. And here's the wild part. It all kicked off with something totally innocent. A reporter asked Stefanski a simple question. Was he finally going to give Shedeur Sanders a shot? That's it. But somehow, that harmless moment turned into a full-blown storm that left the entire locker room spinning. What happened next had everyone, from players to legends, losing their minds over what really went down in Cleveland. The Browns were sitting at 1-3, and the locker room felt colder than a Cleveland blizzard. Energy gone, hope missing, and right there in the middle of it all stood Shedeur Sanders, healthy, locked in, and zipping passes like a sniper during warm-ups. You could practically feel the question floating in the air. When's this kid getting his shot? But Stefanski? Nah, he wasn't in the mood for logic that day. He chose pure chaos instead. His response landed like a sucker punch. The football version of, don't ask about the future, I'm too busy losing in the present. That's when Tom Brady, yes, the unshakable Tom Brady, lost it. The man who once stared down the Falcons' defense while trailing 28-3 in the Super Bowl was suddenly pacing, shaking his head, muttering under his breath, play Dylan, keep Shedeur out there, Kevin, we get it. Like he just watched football's moral code get shredded right in front of him. To Brady, this wasn't just bad coaching, it was blasphemy. The same guy who built his empire on opportunity just watched a coach bury it under ego and call it leadership. The disgust on his face said it all. The GOAT couldn't believe the arrogance unfolding before him. Let's rewind this circus, because this team was supposed to be reborn, a brand new era, loaded with swagger, raw talent, and a defense that hit harder than tax season. Shedeur Sanders came in looking so sharp it could make a punter tear up. Cleveland finally had something it hadn't felt in years, hope. And let's be real, in Cleveland, hope usually shows up right before heartbreak kicks down the door. But just when the city started to believe again, here came the twist that flipped everything upside down. Kevin Stefanski didn't even want Shedeur. He wasn't his pick at all. The general manager made that call, and trust me, in the NFL, there's one thing coaches hate more than losing, being told who their quarterback should be. So what did Stefanski do? Instead of embracing the challenge and letting competition bring out the best in everyone, he built himself a whole fortress made of excuses. Suddenly it was his back.
So Stefanski knows if he gives in to Shedeur, I think he's a goner. You know, like that's going to be the end of him, because he's dug in internally with the owner and the GM that he just wants no part of Shedeur. He doesn't like him. He doesn't like the way he handles himself. He doesn't like the way he carries himself in the locker room and the social media and all those things that nobody liked about him, or a lot of NFL people didn't like before the draft. So it's going to take the owner stepping in and saying, it's time. We're going to do this whether you like it or not. And that will mean Stefanski.
Tight. He's still learning the playbook. We're being cautious. Please. Nobody was buying that act. Because while Stefanski was playing doctor on the podium, Shedeur was out there in pregame warm-ups throwing lasers. No hesitation, no limp, no pain, just pure precision. You could practically hear the trainers whispering, "He's fine, but let's not ruin the coach's weekend." The whole stadium saw it. The fans, the players, even the mascot probably rolled his eyes. And that's when the whispers turned into straight-up tension in the building. Players started side-eyeing each other, wondering what the real deal was. How could a team desperate for a spark keep its brightest light sitting on the bench? It didn't make sense. Even the veterans were shaking their heads. They'd seen bad calls before, but this felt personal, like Stefanski was making a point instead of making progress. Rumors started flying around, faster than a kickoff in overtime. Some said Stefanski wanted to prove a message. Others claimed he didn't like how much attention Shedeur was getting from the media. But, come on, how are you going to punish your most promising player because the city's excited about him? That's not leadership, that's ego wearing a headset. Tom Brady heard about all this mess, and that's when he reportedly went off. Not in public. Oh no, Brady's too smart for that. But behind the scenes, let's just say his reaction had people talking. The word going around was that he called out Stefanski's attitude, saying that kind of pride kills locker rooms faster than losing streaks. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Cleveland was supposed to be turning the page, starting fresh with Shedeur ready to roll. Instead, they were stuck in the same old cycle. Bad decisions, mixed signals, and a coach too stubborn to admit he might be wrong. The fans could see it, the media was circling, and every day it felt like the Browns were one headline away from total meltdown. By midweek, things inside the Browns facility were boiling over. Players weren't even hiding their frustration anymore. The energy in practice felt off, like everyone was walking on eggshells. Some teammates started quietly backing Shedeur, saying he earned the right to at least try to save the season. Others just kept their heads down, afraid to cross Stefanski's line. It was getting messy, fast. Then, out of nowhere, reports leaked that Shedeur had been lighting it up in closed practices, dropping dimes, running drills like a vet, and leaving coaches speechless. But instead of celebrating his progress, Stefanski doubled down on his usual "he's not ready" excuse. That's when people started connecting the dots. This wasn't about readiness, it was about control. And when word reached Tom Brady, he was reportedly stunned. The GOAT, the man who built his whole career on getting a chance when nobody believed in him, couldn't wrap his head around it. Sources said Brady vented privately, calling the situation disrespectful to the game. He saw it for what it was, a coach too scared to admit his ego was running the show. Meanwhile, Shedeur stayed quiet, just grinding and waiting for his moment, but everyone around him knew he deserved better.
It's extremely important to keep your mental in the best place because that's where my game is played. My game's not played from my legs and not even just my arm. So I know longevity, the all-time greats, what's Tom Brady's best trait? His mental. He's able to think. So if you have those traits of greatness and I know where I'm heading, then why wouldn't the franchise pick me? You got the ultimate T-code.
Browns were supposed to be reborn. Instead, they were tearing themselves apart from the inside out. But Stefanski clung to his pride like it was the last page of a sacred playbook. Untouched, unchallenged, and untouchable. It's like he'd rather lose pretty than win ugly with the wrong quarterback. And that's exactly when Tom Brady, chilling in his post-retirement glow, decided to roll back the tape. What he saw made his blood pressure spike faster than a 2-minute drill. There was rookie Dylan Gabriel out there running the offense like it was stuck in slow motion. One lonely touchdown, 2 ugly picks, and highlight reels slower than dial-up internet. Brady didn't see a rebuild. He saw a cover-up, a desperate attempt to defend a bad choice while Shedeur Sanders sat on the sidelines, polishing helmets like he was some forgotten rookie in witness protection. It wasn't development, it was exile with a Gatorade bottle. You could almost picture Brady shaking his head thinking, when I was that age, I was getting leveled by linebackers who smelled like regret and turf paint. That's how you learn the game. To him, the grind built greatness. But Stefanski? Oh no. He had his own twisted philosophy. Protect the project, protect the ego, protect the myth that the coach always knows best. While he hid behind that nonsense, the fans finally snapped. Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, every corner of the internet lit up like draft night fireworks. Clips of Shedeur slinging passes in practice started going viral, captions screaming, "Free Shedeur." Once again, social media went absolutely wild. Hashtags flying everywhere like confetti after a playoff win. Free Shedeur. Let the kid cook. Every like, every retweet, every double tap was another body shot to Stefanski's so-called master plan. The comment sections turned into digital war zones, fans arguing, analysts dragging, and memes roasting Cleveland harder than a late-night comedian. From Boston to Boise, every sports show had the same headline flashing on screen. What's wrong with the Browns? And right in the middle of all that smoke, Tom Brady decided to drop his analysis like a tactical nuke. Because let's be honest, Brady doesn't do subtle. For weeks, he'd been preaching about leadership, trust, and the importance of giving young quarterbacks a real shot to prove themselves. And here was Cleveland doing the complete opposite, benching their most promising talent like he was radioactive waste. To Brady, it wasn't just bad strategy. It was straight up football blasphemy. This is the same man who turned Drew Bledsoe's injury into a dynasty. He knows what a next man up moment can do for a team. So when he saw Shedeur wasting away on the sidelines while the Browns were losing 13 to 10 minutes.
I think at this point, we rather have Kevin Stefanski and lose than go a different direction and be successful. We got the Bengals fans chanting at you, thank you. We done already had to deal with the Sam Weiss. You don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati, and we still getting laughed at.
They weren't thanking Stefanski, they were thanking Andrew Barry.
Same difference. And Kevin Stefanski, same difference. I don't like neither one of them. They could both get a
masterpieces. He lost it. Reports say he lit up the studio that day, shredding not just the play calling, but the entire philosophy behind it. Our focus is where we are right now. That's Stefanski's go-to line. The classic coach speak translation for, "We have no clue what we're doing, but stop asking before I snap." It's the kind of line that sounds calm on camera, but screams desperation behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Tom Brady's sitting back in his Florida mansion, watching this disaster unfold like a Netflix docu-series called How to Ruin a Franchise in Real Time. You could practically see the frustration building every time Cleveland called another useless screen pass on 3rd and 11. To Brady, this wasn't just bad football, it was flat out disrespectful. The man built his legacy on precision, preparation, and discipline, and now he's watching the Browns call plays like they're auditioning for an improv night in someone's basement. It wasn't structure, it was chaos and shoulder pads, and it made his blood boil. But here's where it gets really wild. This wasn't just incompetence, it was politics, plain and simple. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just another name on the roster, he was a threat. If he ever touched that field and delivered, Stefanski's whole trust the process narrative would crumble overnight. All those press conference lines about patience and development gone in seconds. Every excuse would explode the moment Shedeur showed he could actually win games. And that's the nightmare Stefanski couldn't handle. Being exposed as the coach who benched his most talented player just to protect his pride. In the NFL, that's not just bad optics, that's career suicide. He started tightening control over everything, practices, media access, even who could talk in team meetings. It was like he built his own little kingdom inside the facility, guarded by paranoia and excuses. Players who asked questions suddenly found themselves benched or buried on depth charts. Reporters who pushed too hard got hit with no comment faster than a 2-minute warning. The whole vibe in Cleveland shifted from competition to control. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders just kept showing up, quiet, focused, and ready. Every throw in practice was a statement, every rep a reminder that talent doesn't disappear just because someone's insecure. The vets noticed it too. Whispers started spreading through the locker room that maybe, just maybe, Stefanski wasn't protecting the team, he was protecting himself.
Don't think he's going to be the coach to get us past a certain point. And we've seen it for 6 years now, and if you're not going to change at this point, it's not going to happen.
They're probably going to win 5 games this year. That's being generous the rest of the way. That's 3 more wins. Maybe the Jets, Titans, and somebody else. The Bengals
Raiders.
week 18 or Raiders, sure. So, but the point is that would make him 8-26 across 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And if you go back and track the history of the NFL, not many coaches who didn't have their first year be the struggle year have survived this.
And that's when Brady, the ultimate competitor, reportedly lost his patience for good. Sources close to his circle said he called it one of the worst examples of leadership he'd ever seen in the league. Coming from Tom Brady, the guy who lived and breathed accountability. That's not criticism, that's a straight-up verdict. By that point, even fans who had defended Stefanski were starting to wake up. The comment sections flipped. No more trust the process. Now it was fire the coach before he ruins Shedeur. Stadium chants got louder, podcasts got meaner, and talk shows were circling like vultures over a dying season. It wasn't just about wins and losses anymore. It was about credibility. How long could the locker room pretend everything was fine when everyone knew it wasn't? Cleveland had the talent, the quarterback, and the chance to finally change their story. But instead, they were watching it all slip away because one man refused to let go of his ego. Stefanski doubled down like a man cornered. He wrapped himself in excuses, hid behind his precious system, and prayed no one would notice that his so-called empire was built on fear, not football. Every press conference sounded the same. Calm tone, empty words, zero accountability. It was the classic move of a desperate coach trying to protect his image while the season crumbled around him. But Tom Brady, oh, he wasn't letting that slide. Not for a second. Week after week, on every broadcast, he dropped the same line with that trademark smirk, let the young talent cook. By then, he might as well have held up a glowing neon sign that read, "Play Shedeur." And the football world knew exactly what he meant. Brady wasn't talking about some random rookie anymore. He was talking about Cleveland, about Stefanski, and about the disaster everyone could see coming from a mile away. The most decorated quarterback in NFL history was basically torching Stefanski's entire coaching philosophy on live TV without even saying his name. That's how bad it got. And inside the Browns locker room, the pressure hit critical mass. You could feel the frustration in the air, thicker than a goal line pileup. The defense was worn out, carrying the offense week after week while the scoreboard barely cracked double digits. Players were snapping in meetings, side-eyeing Gabriel after every short throw, muttering under their breath, "Bro, can you launch it past 10 yards? The vibe was toxic. Trust was gone. Patience was gone. And everyone knew a storm was about to hit Cleveland harder than any blitz they'd ever seen. The offensive coordinator looked like he needed therapy after every single drive. Stress written all over his face, headset half off, staring at the field like it was a crime scene. Meanwhile, Shedeur.
I think that Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football. If I was an NFL GM and I had a pick to where I needed a quarterback, he'd be the first quarterback taken in this year's draft.
I admire Shedeur from the standpoint that he's playing the position the way it's always been intended to play. You know, rhythm, timing, footwork, all matching up. And then you put on top of that the ability to extend plays looking to throw. He's not a runner first, but he is.
He stayed calm, too calm, quiet, patient, and absolutely dangerous. Because here's the truth about Shedeur Sanders. He lives in the chaos. This is a kid who's been under bright lights since high school, coached by a Hall of Fame father, and wired to perform when everyone else panics. Pressure doesn't crack him, it sculpts him. Cameras, critics, chaos, that's his comfort zone. While Cleveland was falling apart from the inside out, Shedeur was moving like a chess player in the middle of a street fight. Steady, focused, and always 3 moves ahead. He wasn't ranting online or calling anyone out. He was sending quiet signals instead. A few key likes on social media here, showing up early to practice there. Little reminders to the team that said, "I'm ready when it's time." And slowly, the vibe started to shift. Players began noticing. Whispers turned into nods. You could feel the energy changing in the locker room. That quiet backup everyone ignored was starting to look like the leader they'd been waiting for. Players weren't whispering anymore. They were saying it out loud. Why isn't he playing? That was the question echoing through the locker room and across the field. The mutiny had officially begun. The Browns' offense looked like a comedy sketch gone wrong. Punts piling up like bad decisions, Gabriel missing open throws left and right, and receivers throwing their hands up in frustration. By halftime, the fans were booing like it was a Cleveland tradition, and the stadium energy felt toxic enough to melt steel. Stefanski stood there on the sideline, jaw locked tight, eyes empty, watching his so-called master plan fall apart in front of the whole world. His masterpiece of stubbornness was crumbling play by play, and everyone knew it. Up in the broadcast booth, Brady was watching the train wreck unfold like it was some twisted form of performance art. You could see him shaking his head, muttering under his breath, "This is why you play your best guy?" Every time Gabriel dumped off another sad 2-yard check down, the camera cut straight to Brady, and his face said everything. Pure, silent agony. No words needed. The GOAT looked like he was physically in pain just watching it happen. And then it happened. The moment the entire city had been waiting for. Fourth quarter, Browns down double digits. The fans absolutely losing it. The chants for Shedeur were so loud, the broadcast mics started cracking. Shedeur! Shedeur! The whole stadium was shaking like an earthquake hit downtown Cleveland. Finally, trapped in his own ego and out of excuses, Stefanski broke. He turned to the sideline, nodded, and motioned for Shedeur Sanders to get in the game. Brady knew exactly what was about to happen. You could see it in his eyes before the snap even came. Shedeur trotted onto that field like he'd been there his whole life. Calm, collected, no nerves, no hesitation, not a single blink, not a single shake. First play, boom, a 20-yard laser over the middle, crisp and confident. Second play, bang, a 40-yard dime on the sideline that froze the defense in disbelief. Third play, touchdown, the stadium erupted. It was pure madness. Fans screaming, players jumping, and Brady in the booth, literally out of his chair. fists flying in the air like it was Foxborough all over again. Meanwhile, Stefanski looked like he'd just seen a ghost, pale, frozen, speechless. You could practically watch his coaching credibility evaporate.
Drew, who was a franchise quarterback, right? In my second year, it's training camp, and we had a very good quarterback coach named Dick Rabine, and God rest his soul. Unfortunately, he passed away in training camp and of a heart attack. And it was a very difficult loss for our team. And the way that we found a way to continue on that season is Bill Belichick became more of a quarterback coach than we ever imagined him being a quarterback coach. He was he was obviously a head coach, very involved in defensive game.
In real time. Every doubt, every excuse, every stubborn decision exposed right there under the stadium lights. In that single drive, the story of Cleveland flipped from tragedy to revolution. Shedeur took command like he'd been running the offense all season long. The receivers came alive again, the defense suddenly had fire in their eyes, and for the first time in years, the whole city had something real to believe in. This wasn't hype, it was history happening right in front of them. The kind of moment that makes fans forget the heartbreak, the losses, the pain, because now they could feel hope again. And the craziest part, it all happened the second Stefanski finally got out of his own way. That's what made Brady's reaction so iconic. He didn't even have to say a word. That little smirk said it all. His expression screamed, "Told you so!" louder than any commentary ever could. But just when it seemed like Cleveland was about to write the greatest comeback story in years, everything took a sharp, wild turn. Stefanski was quietly falling apart. You could see it in his eyes every time Shedeur threw another touchdown. Each perfect pass was a dagger. Each roar from the crowd sounded less like celebration and more like boos in disguise. The man looked trapped in his own nightmare. Every throw Shedeur completed chipped away at his authority, and every press conference after the game felt like a public trial. Reporters grilled him like courtroom lawyers. "Coach, why did it take this long? What were you waiting for?" There were no good answers, just nervous smiles and recycled lines that nobody was buying anymore. Meanwhile, sports networks were running replays of Stefanski's bad calls like forensic evidence in a crime doc. Analysts were circling like sharks, fans were cracking memes, and Cleveland, oh, Cleveland, was loving every second of it. The city that thrives on chaos and comeback stories suddenly had both wrapped into one beautiful disaster. Their rookie quarterback was becoming a hero, and their stubborn coach was unraveling in real time. It was football drama at its finest. Across the country, the football world couldn't stop watching, not just because the Browns were finally winning, but because the whole situation was so Cleveland. The absurd mix of heartbreak, redemption, and pure entertainment had the league buzzing. And right in the middle of it all was Tom Brady, the man who built his legacy on discipline, patience, and control. Now somehow the spiritual leader of Cleveland's rebellion. His on-air rants about accountability had accidentally ignited a full-blown quarterback revolution. Stefanski's stubbornness became the NFL's
Shedeur. I promise you, that stadium and that team and that offense, whether it goes great or it doesn't, at very least, you're going to get the Jackson Dart effect that the Giants had.
That's a good.
In New York, where they said, all right, we got a shot. I believe in this guy.
And you got to do it at home right now. You got a home game.
A winnable home. It's
a winnable home game. If Dylan do play, is the crowd going to come in the game like, if Shedeur plays, it's going to be lit up in there.
It will be.
You know what I'm saying?
It will be.
Defense going to come flying around. And it's the perfect time to start you a little streak if you want to start you a little streak.
We all know Stefanski is fighting for his
favorite meme, spreading across social media faster than highlights from Shedeur's games. And Shedeur, he didn't need to talk, didn't need to brag. Every completion was revenge served warm with poetic precision. By the time the season hit its final stretch, the Browns were unrecognizable. Somewhere in his next broadcast, Tom Brady flashed that subtle knowing grin, the one that said without words, "You're welcome, Cleveland." It was that trademark Brady smirk, equal parts satisfaction and prophecy. But come on, this is Cleveland we're talking about, the city that can't handle peace without a little chaos on the side. Just when the wins started piling up and hope started to feel real again, the politics came crawling right back like a bad sequel. Stefanski tried to rewrite history again. He stood in front of reporters spouting lines about trusting the process and building the right culture, but no one was buying it anymore. Not the fans, not the players, not even the janitor cleaning up after the press conference. The front office started leaking whispers about philosophical differences, which is NFL code for "we're done with this guy." The fans, they were over it. They wanted him gone yesterday. The players could barely look him in the eye, and the locker room energy had flipped completely. Through it all, Shedeur stayed calm, locked in, composed, unshakable. He had become the calm in Cleveland's chaos, the eye of the storm holding the whole thing together while everything around him threatened to fall apart. And then came the grand finale, the game that would define everything. Playoff hopes on the line, national TV, primetime lights, and the opponent, their biggest rival, the team that symbolized everything Cleveland wasn't supposed to be. The buildup didn't just feel important, it felt biblical. Years of pain, pride, and redemption were all colliding into one night. The stadium shook as the team took the field, and the crowd didn't chant Browns. No, they chanted Shedeur, Shedeur. That was the moment it hit. Cleveland had officially flipped forever. Their faith wasn't in the coach anymore, it was in their quarterback. The meltdown went nuclear. It wasn't just drama, it was an explosion.
Hope somebody trades for Shedeur Sanders. I've seen enough of Dylan Gabriel, and obviously Kevin Stefanski has not.
I hate what's going on with Shedeur. I still got hope, though. You know, right after the game, coaches, sometimes they just say shit. He got to have his own meeting with the owner. Maybe in that meeting, he going to say, hey, 18 QBR, get him the fuck out of there, bro. Let's put Shedeur in right now. You're almost giving up on a great defense and a solid run game in the shitty NFC North. If he come and bring a spark, you might go 8-9.
Well, it just shows how much they hate Shedeur.
I got to understand why everybody thinks Stefanski hates the kid. Why is that?
Clear as day.
Because it's clear as day. He wouldn't.
This guy's been coach of the year twice, and he wants to win as bad as anybody else.
Explosion that rocked the entire organization. But in that chaos, Cleveland finally learned the one lesson Tom Brady had been preaching from the very beginning. Greatness doesn't wait for permission, and that's the wild, poetic irony of it all. The saga that began with a stubborn coach refusing to play his young quarterback ended with that same quarterback being the reason he lost his job. Talk about karma with perfect timing. Shedeur didn't need revenge speeches, no emotional outbursts, no flashy sound bites. He let his game do all the talking. Every throw, every drive, every touchdown was a statement, a reminder that you can't bury talent that was born for the spotlight. His calm fire burned brighter than any headline, proving what Brady had been saying all along. Real leadership doesn't talk, it delivers. And Brady, he didn't even have to rub it in. He just sat back, watched it unfold, and smiled like a man whose playbook had just been proven right by fate itself. His philosophy had already won. And Cleveland, oh Cleveland, true to form, they did what they always do. They burned it all down just to rise from the ashes once more. But this time, something different came out of the fire. Something beautiful. It wasn't a rebuild, it was a rebirth. This wasn't just another football turnaround, it was a redemption story written in real time. Because Shedeur Sanders didn't just play football, he rewrote it. He rewrote the Browns' story, the city's hope, and the entire definition of belief right in front of the world. He took pure chaos and turned it into destiny. Cleveland didn't just fall apart. They collapsed in the most Cleveland way possible. Loud, messy, emotional, and absolutely unforgettable. It was heartbreak and redemption, crashing headfirst into each other under the stadium lights. You couldn't write a better script if you tried. It's almost poetic when you really think about it. The same franchise that spent decades begging for a savior finally found one the moment they stopped trying to control him. And the man who tried to bury him, he ended up buried by his own pride, trapped under the same playbook he once thought would make him untouchable. That's not just football, that's karma, wearing cleats, strutting right down the 50-yard line with a grin. Cleveland, in all its beautiful madness, somehow managed to turn heartbreak, hope, and rebirth into one wild cinematic ride that no one saw coming. The truth is, this wasn't just a comeback story. It was a revelation, a reminder that you can't cage greatness, you can't silence talent, and you definitely can't stop destiny once it's in motion. Shedeur Sanders didn't just save a team, he rewrote what it means to believe again in a city that's been burned too many times before. He took a franchise known for pain and turned it into a symbol of persistence, living proof that sometimes the story only changes when you finally let go of fear and give the right man his shot. If that story hit you like it hit Cleveland, don't forget to show some love. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think about this insane ride. Share this with every football fan who believes in redemption, and make sure you subscribe because this story isn't finished yet. The next chapter, it's coming, and you're not going to want to miss it. See you on the next one.